The following weekend, Aliyah went shopping at the market, graded more essays, even video called her mother back home. She laughed when she was supposed to, nodded when her mother teased her about being single, and forced herself to smile. But every moment felt haunted by him. Joan. The storm. The dinner. His words. Because you are mine. And worse, the flutter in her chest every time she remembered the way his fingers brushed her cheek. By Saturday evening, she gave up pretending. She pulled on a simple dress of soft yellow cotton with a fitted waist and left her apartment. She didn't know where she was going, only that part of her hoped he would find her. And of course, he did. She barely reached the riverside promenade before a shadow fell across her. Joan stood there, dressed not in a suit this time but in a black turtleneck and tailored coat. Still sharp, still magnetic, but almost casual. You were looking for me, he said, not as a question but as fact. Aliyah rolled her eyes, though her lips twitched. Maybe I was just taking a walk. He stepped closer, his presence enveloping her. Then walk with me. The promenade glowed under paper lanterns strung across wooden posts. Families strolled, children ran laughing, couples leaned against the railing to watch the river glisten with moonlight. The world felt softer here, almost normal. They walked in silence for a while. Aliyah's heels clicked against the stone path, her hand brushing the railing. She kept sneaking glances at Joan, surprised at how calm he looked. You seem different tonight, she said finally. How so? Less intimidating. Almost human. That rare curve touched his lips again. Almost. She smirked. Don't push it. He chuckled low, the sound vibrating through her. You make me feel human. That's the difference. Her steps faltered, but she recovered quickly. You're saying that it's something unusual for you. It is. His gaze fixed on the lanterns ahead, their warm glow reflected in his dark eyes. Most people don't see me as a man. Only as power, money, fear. Even my enemies respect me only because they have no choice. But with you. He turned to her now, his voice softer, almost raw. With you, I feel seen. Aliyah's throat tightened. She wanted to tell herself this was manipulation, some carefully rehearsed line. But the way he looked at her, the vulnerability hiding under all that steel, it didn't feel rehearsed at all. She forced a laugh, trying to lighten the moment. Careful, Joan. That almost sounded like a confession. It was, he said simply. Her breath caught. She looked away, watching the lanterns sway. You don't even know me that well. I know enough, he repeated, the same certainty that always disarmed her. I know that you're stubborn, that you care about your students more than you admit, that you left home because you wanted freedom but you're still learning what that means. I know that you pretend not to like my presence, but your heart races when I'm near. Her eyes flew to his. Excuse me. His lips curved, dangerous but amused. Don't deny it, Aliyah. I hear it. Flustered, she swatted his arm. You're impossible. And obsessed, he added smoothly. She groaned, but the heat in her cheeks betrayed her. They stopped near a vendor selling candied hawthorn sticks, the bright red fruit glistening under sugar glaze. Joan bought two without hesitation and handed one to her. You eat these? Aliyah teased, surprised. Sometimes, he admitted, biting into one with uncharacteristic ease. Even men like me remember sweetness. She laughed, biting into hers. The sugar cracked under her teeth, tartness rushing in after. Okay, this I didn't expect. He watched her, a softness in his gaze that made her chest ache. I like surprising you. Something shifted between them, then quiet but undeniable. The night air grew thicker, the lanterns glowing warmer, the space between them charged with something neither dared name. On the way back, they paused at the riverside. The city lights shimmered in the water, the hum of life fading behind them. Aliyah leaned on the railing, arms folded. You know, Joan, part of me thinks I should run as far as I can from you. And yet you don't, he said. No, she admitted softly. I don't. He stepped behind her, close enough that his warmth brushed her back, his voice low by her ear. Because you feel it too. This pulls between us. Her heart hammered. Maybe I do. But it scares me. Good, he murmured. Because anything worth having should scare you. She turned to face him, ready to protest, but stopped when she saw his eyes. Dark. Intense. And, for the first time since she met him, unguarded. Don't run from me, Aaliyah, he said quietly. I'll protect you from everything. Even myself, if I must. But don't walk away. For a long moment, neither moved. Then, almost without thought, her hand lifted to his chest, resting over the steady beat of his heart. The world narrowed to that touch. That heartbeat. That man. And in the silence of lanterns and moonlight, she whispered, I'm still here. Joan exhaled slowly, a sound that was almost relief. His hand came up, brushing her jaw with a gentleness that contrasted everything she knew about him. For a moment, it seemed he might kiss her. But then his phone buzzed sharply. His expression shifted instantly, steel replacing softness. He pulled the device from his coat, read the message, and cursed under his breath in Mandarin. What is it? Aaliyah asked, startled. He pocketed the phone, jaw tight. Nothing for you to worry about. But the way his body tensed told her otherwise. For the first time, she realized that falling for Joan Chen didn't just mean love and obsession. It meant stepping into his shadows. Into a world that might never let her go. The night should have ended in warmth, in the lingering glow of lanterns and laughter. But as Joan drove Aaliyah home, a strange stillness settled over him. He kept glancing at the rearview mirror, jaw taut, his hands gripping the wheel tighter than usual. Joan, Aaliyah said softly, sensing the shift. What's wrong? Nothing, he replied curtly. Too curtly. Her heart stuttered. She had only known him a short while, but she already recognized the signs. His calm wasn't calm at all. It was a mask. When the car turned onto her street, Aaliyah's unease turned to dread. The lights outside her building were out. The usual chatter of neighbors, gone. The air felt heavy, like a trap waiting for spring. Joan's eyes flicked to her. Stay in the car. Joan. Now. His tone left no room for argument. He stepped out first, his coat shifting as his hand slid beneath it, toward something hidden. The truth hit her then with cold clarity. He wasn't just dangerous with his fists. He carried weapons. Her chest tightened. Who exactly is this man? The attack came fast. 3 figures emerged from the shadows, faces obscured by masks, blades glinting under the street lamp. They didn't hesitate. They moved toward Joan with deadly intent. Aaliyah gasped, fumbling with her seatbelt. But Joan was already in motion. A flash of steel, a knife slashed through the air. Joan twisted, catching the attacker's wrist, snapping it with a sickening crack before driving his elbow into the man's jaw. He crumpled without a sound. The second lunged, blade raised. Joan sidestepped, pulling a sleek pistol from beneath his coat. The shot echoed like thunder. The man dropped, clutching his leg, screaming into the night. Third hesitated, but only for a second. Then he made the mistake of rushing at Aaliyah's side of the car. Her scream tore out before she could stop it. But Joan was faster. His hand slammed against the hood, vaulting across with inhuman precision. He seized the man by the collar, shoving him against the car window so hard the glass rattled. Who sent you? Joan's voice was low, deadly. The man spat blood, eyes wide with terror. Why you know who? The dragons don't forgive. Before he could finish, Joan struck, knocking him out cold. His body slid to the pavement like discarded trash. The street was silent again, broken only by Aaliyah's ragged breaths. Her door opened, and Joan crouched beside her. His pistol was still in his hand, the scent of gunpowder clinging to his coat. Yet when he looked at her, his expression softened instantly. Are you hurt? He asked. She shook her head, trembling. I think I'm okay. His hand brushed her cheek, grounding her. Good. You're safe. But the lie was too obvious. Safe, she whispered, her voice breaking. Joan, what was that? Who are those people? What have you dragged me into? For a moment, he said nothing. His gaze, sharp as ever, flicked to the fallen men, then back to her. They were enemies, he said finally. Nothing more. Nothing more. Her voice rose. Joan, they tried to kill you. They tried to kill me. His jaw clenched, guilt flashing in his eyes. He took her hand, firm and unyielding. Listen to me, Aaliyah. This is my world. Dark, ruthless, full of blood. But I swear to you no one touches you. I'll burn down the entire city if they try. Her heart ached. The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. But so was the truth. This wasn't just an obsession anymore. This was war. And she was caught in the middle. That night, Joan didn't leave her apartment. He stationed himself by her window, gun holstered at his side, every muscle taut and ready. His men arrived within the hour, shadowy figures who spoke in clipped Mandarin, scanning the street, reporting back. From her bedroom doorway, Aaliyah watched it all, her world tilting on its axis. The sweet candied fruit, the laughter by the river, the soft confessions under lantern light, it felt like a dream she could barely hold on to. Because now, reality has crashed in. Her protector wasn't just a mysterious man with sharp suits and dangerous charm. He was a mafia boss. And his obsession with her had just painted a target on her back. Still, when Joan finally turned toward her, his gaze softening for her and only her, Aaliyah felt her fear twist into something far more dangerous. She didn't just want him to stay. She needed him. And maybe that was the scariest truth of all. The apartment had never felt so small. Aaliyah sat on the couch, knees drawn up, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The clock ticked faintly on the wall, but time seemed to move strangely, too fast and too slow all at once. Her heart still hadn't settled. Every creak of the building, every car horn outside made her flinch. She had always imagined Shanghai as vibrant, chaotic, alive. Tonight, it felt like a city of ghosts. In the corner by the window, Joan stood like a sentinel. His black coat draped around him, one hand resting near the holster at his hip, his eyes fixed on the darkened street below. He hadn't moved in nearly an hour. Aaliyah couldn't stand it anymore. Joan. He turned immediately, sharp as if he'd been waiting for her voice. His gaze softened when he saw her, and he crossed the room, kneeling in front of her. You should rest, he said quietly. You've been trembling for too long. She let out a shaky laugh. Rest? After what just happened? After men came out of nowhere trying to kill us? They weren't trying to kill you, he corrected. His voice was calm, deliberate. They were trying to hurt me. You were leveraged. That doesn't make me feel better. Her voice cracked, and before she knew it, tears burned at her eyes. She pressed her palms against them, frustrated. I didn't come here for this. I came to teach, to live, to be free. And now I'm sitting in my apartment while armed men stand guard outside like something out of a movie. Joan caught her hands, pulling them gently away from her face. His touch was steady, grounding. Look at me. She did, reluctantly. His eyes held hers, dark and unflinching. I won't let them touch you. Not the dragons. Not anyone. I swear this on my name, Aaliyah. You are mine to protect. Her breath hitched. But why? Why me? You could have anyone. Why risk all this for a woman you barely know? For once, Joan hesitated. He lowered his gaze, as though searching for words. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Because when I saw you for the first time, I felt something I haven't felt in years. His hand brushed her cheek, fingertips featherlight. Peace. And when you looked at me, you didn't see a monster. You saw a man. Her chest ached. His words cut through every layer of fear she had built. Joan, she whispered. He leaned closer, so close she could feel the warmth of his breath. His forehead rested gently against hers, a rare vulnerability radiating from him. You've become my obsession, he murmured. But it isn't just hunger or desire. It's need. Aaliyah, I don't know how to stop wanting you. Her heart raced. Every part of her screamed that this was dangerous, reckless, insane. And yet, when his thumb traced her jaw, when his voice trembled with honesty, she felt her defenses crumble. Her hands rose, almost without thought, gripping his coat. Maybe I don't want you to stop. The silence between them thickened. His lips hovered just above hers, a breath away, waiting, asking, for once, if she would close the distance. And she did. The kiss was slow at first, hesitant, like neither of them quite believed it was happening. But then Joan's hand slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer, and the dam broke. His mouth claimed hers with a hunger that matched the storm in her chest. She melted into him, the fear and adrenaline of the night pouring out through the desperate press of their lips. When he finally pulled away, his forehead still resting against hers, both of them were breathless. "You're playing with fire," she whispered, trembling. "I am fire," he said simply. "And now you're mine." Her heart twisted, torn between fear and surrender. She should run. She should push him away. But instead, she whispered the truth she couldn't deny. "Then burn me, Joan." His eyes darkened, a storm and a promise all at once. And in that moment, Aaliyah knew she wasn't just caught in his world anymore. She was choosing it. Choosing him. No matter the cost. The first thing Aaliyah noticed was silence. Not the heavy, fearful silence of last night, but something softer. Calmer. The kind that wrapped around her like a blanket. She stirred slowly on the couch, blinking against the pale stream of sunlight filtering through the curtains. For a moment, she wasn't sure where she was. Then the memories crashed back, blood in the street. Joan's gun. His vow. His kiss. Her cheeks flushed at the last part. Shifting carefully, she sat up. Her blanket slipped down, and she realized someone had tucked it around her sometime during the night. Across the room, by the window, Joan was still there. But this time, he wasn't standing guard like a soldier. He was sitting in her armchair, his head tilted back, eyes closed, his coat draped over the side. The morning light softened his sharp features, making him look less like a mafia boss and more like just a man. Aaliyah found herself staring. She had only seen him in control, untouchable, carved from steel. But like this, resting, vulnerable, he seemed achingly human. Her heart betrayed her with a flutter. Quietly, she padded into the kitchen, pulling down a pot. She wasn't the best cook, but she knew how to make coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Within minutes, the rich scent filled the apartment. The sound must have woken him. Joan stirred, opening his eyes slowly. For a second, his gaze darted around the room, sharp, alert, as if expecting danger. Then his eyes landed on her, and his expression softened. "You're awake," he said, his voice low and rough from sleep. She smiled faintly, holding up the mug. "And making coffee. Want some?" He rose, stretching slightly before crossing the room. "Yes." When she handed him the mug, their fingers brushed. It was such a simple thing, but it sent a shiver racing down her spine. They sat at her tiny kitchen table, the two mugs steaming between them. "Not exactly your usual five-star breakfast," Aaliyah joked, trying to ease the tension. Joan took a sip, his lips curving faintly. "It's perfect." She shook her head, laughing softly. "You're impossible to read sometimes. One moment, you're terrifying. Next, you're normal." "Do you want me to be normal?" he asked, his gaze fixed on her. The question stilled her. She traced the rim of her mug, thinking, normal is safe. But she lifted her eyes to his. Safe isn't always enough, is it? Something shifted in his expression, something deep and raw. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. His palm was warm, calloused, steady. "I don't know how to be safe, Aaliyah," he admitted. "All I know is how to protect what's mine. And now, that means you." Her breath caught. "You keep saying that. That I'm yours. Do you really mean it?" He leaned closer, his dark eyes unwavering. "I've never meant anything more in my life." Her chest ached with the weight of his words. She should have pulled her hand back. She should have reminded herself that this man carried a gun, that men had bled in her street because of him. But instead, she whispered, "Then maybe I'm yours." The silence stretched, thick with meaning. Joan's thumb brushed over her knuckles, a rare tenderness in his touch. For a long moment, the world outside her apartment didn't exist. No enemies. No threats. Just a man and a woman sitting across from each other, bound by something neither of them had expected. Finally, Joan set his mug down. "I can't stay much longer," he said reluctantly. "There are things I need to handle." Aaliyah swallowed. "The dragons." His jaw tightened. "Yes. They crossed a line. And I intend to remind them why I am not a man to be touched." Her heart sank, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. "Just promise me you'll be careful." His lips curved in a faint, almost sad smile. "Careful isn't in my nature. But for you I'll try." He stood, pulling his coat back over his shoulders, his presence filling the small kitchen once more. But before he left, he paused, leaning down so his lips brushed just beside her ear. "I'll come back to you," he murmured. "Always." And then he was gone, leaving the faint scent of coffee and cologne, and a heart that no longer belonged entirely to herself. Aaliyah sat at the table long after, her fingers tracing the warmth of his touch, knowing her world had already changed forever. Rain slicked the streets of Shanghai, turning the neon lights into rivers of color. Joan's black car cut through the night like a shadow, its tinted windows sealing him away from the city's noise. Inside, the air was heavy. His men sat rigid, their silence more dangerous than words. The events of last night had left blood in the gutters, and Joan would not forgive such disrespect. At his side, Minute Ho, his most trusted lieutenant, shifted uneasily. "They've gotten bold," Minute Ho muttered. "The dragons haven't made a move like this in years." "They forgot their place," Joan said flatly. His gaze was fixed out the window, but his mind burned with images of Aaliyah trembling in her apartment, her lips pressed to his, her whispered plea for him to be careful. Careful. He almost laughed at the word. Men like him weren't careful. They were ruthless. The car slowed, pulling up outside an abandoned warehouse by the river. A half-dozen black SUVs were already parked there, engines humming like beasts waiting to be unleashed. Joan stepped out, rain spotting his black coat, the weight of his pistol hidden beneath. Inside, his men had gathered rows of hard-eyed soldiers in dark suits, each of them loyal to him by blood and fear. When Joan entered, they fell silent. He climbed the short set of steps to the platform at the room's center, his figure a dark silhouette against the dim overhead light. "They thought they could touch me," he said, his voice cold and even. "They thought they could come into my streets, point their guns at me, and live." A low murmur rippled through the men, anger simmering like fire in their veins. "They forgot who I am," Joan continued. His eyes narrowed. "I am not to be touched. And neither is anything that belongs to me." Minute Ho stepped forward, bowing his head. "What are your orders, boss?" Joan's lips curved in a dangerous smile. "We strike back. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight." The room vibrated with energy. Guns were loaded, knives checked, bloodlust sharpening like steel. Joan descended from the platform, his footsteps echoing. His men parted like water as he passed, each of them waiting for his command. "Find their leaders," he said. "Drag them into the light. I want the dragons crawling on their knees before dawn." A roar of assent filled the warehouse. But as the men scattered, Joan lingered in the shadows, pulling a cigarette from his pocket. He lit it slowly, inhaling, letting the smoke curl through the air. Aaliyah's face flickered in his mind, her eyes wide with fear, her lips whispering, "Promise me you'll be careful." His hand tightened around the lighter until his knuckles went white. This wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. "Burn them all," he muttered to himself, tossing the cigarette into the wet ground outside as he strode back into the storm. Thank you for watching. If you are new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell.